Hi, I'm Will Smith, and I love this life.
Tell me a little bit about you. Where are you from?
I am from, I tell everyone, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Technically, I'm from Northport, but everybody seems to know where Tuscaloosa is, being the town of the University of Alabama. So, Roll Tide. That's where I'm from, born and raised there. I will be 30 years old next month, and I've been drag racing since, technically, I was 8 years old, but been doing this. Been in racing since I was 2 years old, before I was 2 years old.
So started in junior dragsters?
Yep. I started in junior dragsters back then. It was 8 years old. I saw my first junior dragster when I was 2 years old. That was 1992 when they debuted in the NHRA. And the first one I saw, I told my dad, I'm like, man, I want to do that, you know. And my dad and mom were both like, well, you know, you get of age and you do good in school and you be a good kid and you know still love racing at that point, we'll do it. And there's times they thought I would grow out of that, but as I grew older, I grew more into it, and I guess the rest is history after that. So,
well, you certainly didn't grow out of it. That's for sure.
Definitely not.
So was drag racing a family thing for you?
Yeah, my dad was a big drag racing fan. He also drag raced, you know, bracket racing and whatnot. And I mean, I was born into it, and my mom stayed at home with me until I went to kindergarten. So every day, I can't tell you how many drag racing races I watched on replay, you know, on VHS tapes over and over and over. And I just eat, sleep, and breathe drag racing. I did at that age before I was 2, and I do when I'm almost 30. And I just took a love of the sport and have a passion for it. And it was something me and my family did together. Me and my dad, we would go to, you know, 3 or 4 national events a year that we could go to. And it was a family thing for us.
So family is not here physically with you now. You're in northern Indiana.
Yep. Yeah.
But you have kind of a new adopted family.
I love this family. I do consider the Harada family my family as well. My family considers them family, and vice versa. I am so fortunate and blessed to be a part of this team, to be surrounded with these great people. They're very knowledgeable, and more importantly, they share the same passion for drag racing as I do. And I think that's what drew us together. I think that's what keeps us together. And we all we share the same, like I said, passion. Our goals are the same. I mean, when I was able to put this deal together with Dave and his parents, you know, he tells me, he says, you know, we're going to race hard. We're going to win every race we enter, but we're going to have fun doing it, you know. So I can tell you this has been the best thing that's ever happened to me, being with this group, driving this race car, working for them, representing our great sponsors. I mean, hey, I love this life. You know?
Well, how did you find out that this was an opportunity for you?
I worked for several, you know, professional teams from a young teenager up to my mid-20s, and driving has always been my goal. You know, I wanted to and want to still drive a Top Fuel Dragster one day, and I'm going to do everything in my power to try to make that happen. And you know, I tried to work my way up the ranks, and Dave and I met, I want to say I was probably about 17 when I met Dave. And what's funny is Dave was one of my idols, favorite racers growing up. The guy was cool. He had the cool look. He had the, you know, cool car. A great team. They ran very well. You know, I just loved everything about them. You know, and I knew their history. And anyway, that's how we got connected. And Years went by, and we were at Indy, I think it was 2015, and I told Dave, I says, you know, what would it take for me to get licensed in your car? And he kind of laughed. He said, you want to drive this thing? And I'm like, yeah, you know. He's like, what do you want to do that for? Why don't you just shoot for top fuel? I'm like, hey, you got to work my way up, you know. And it was just a joke between us. But we discussed it then, and 2017 came around, and the opportunity presented itself for me to get behind the wheel and get my license. And at that point, I had the aspirations of driving full time, you know, for them, or, you know, being in someone's car. And but I didn't have all that figured out at that time, and I actually got licensed at Indy during the PDRA race that I worked for, and they were great with allowing me to do that, and it went very well. And Dave and his dad, we all talked about it afterwards, and they're like, hey, you know, let's try to do something. Let's try to go racing together, you know. And obviously was my goal from the get-go. So some time went on, and we're like, okay, this is realistic. And then I had some, you know, great marketing partners step up and want to help me do it. And I've been able to grow that since I've been here. And 2018 was my first year driving, and that was kind of a surreal moment for me. I mean, you know, I'm like, hey, I'm doing it. I'm playing the game, you know. That's what I've always dreamed of. And each year our performance on track and off the track with our marketing partners has been growing, and that's what led us to where we're at right now.
So at this point, this will be your third year in the car. How many laps have you put on the car?
You know, we ran 7 races in 18. We ran 9 last year. Unfortunately, so far we've only been able to do the baby gators this year. I think I have closing in on 100 laps in the car, you know, with testing and stuff. And you know, it goes back to getting licensed. You know, I was just hoping to make my 3 runs and get a license, and now I'm sitting here and saying, hey, we're going in our 3rd year, and I'm close to 100 laps, which 100 laps ain't that many when you look at it. I mean, considering what some of the other people have, but I think I think we've been successful, given, you know, very successful these last couple of years, since we haven't been able to run any more races than we have, you know.
So is lap 100 as exciting as the very first one?
They're all exciting. I can tell you the first run, remember it like it was yesterday, and it was, honestly, after the run, I was like, wow, I can do this. You know, I wasn't really intimidated by it. I'm like, okay, I can do this. But I'll tell you, every run, whether you go number 1 qualifier or you win a race, which unfortunately I haven't been able to win one yet, but, you know, no matter if you make a good run or you smoke the tires at hit, you learn something from it, you know. And I look at every run, every attempt I make down the track as, well, what can I take from that and get better? So, is it as exciting? Yeah, I think so. I mean, every time when this car starts up, and I know that people have talked about it, I mean, I get so pumped up driving the car from the time it starts up to do the burnout. You know, I think Molly, my backup girl, thought I was having a seizure one time. I was just so pumped up in the car, you know. So I get excited no matter what, you know. But it's, you know, last year in Norwalk when we did that 850-foot wheelie, you know, that was exciting, and that was like, it was just so smooth, and just riding out on the wheelie bar, I rode it out, you know. And then at 800 feet, I felt it raise up a little more, and I'm like, I got out of it then, you know. And so that was probably the most exciting pass that I've made, you know. But like I said, they're all exciting, and it's just, what can you take from each run, each attempt down the track? You know, that's the way I look at it.
See the noses of our first two Top Alcohol Dragsters making their way out of the staging lanes and getting ready to aim for the water box is Will Smith. Dr. Jerry Powell getting ready to come out and see what they can do. And again, I'm telling you right now, we have a very good racetrack. It's going to be a matter of being able to throw everything at it that you got, and hopefully you got enough. Will Smith at the wheel of the McKinney chassis car, owned and tuned by Dave Harada. The Alabama-based driver and the Indiana-based team coming up there on the left-hand side of the racetrack. Jerry Powell, also out of Indiana, the Medicine Man Racing. Brad Anderson combination on the right-hand side, and the Alcohol Dragster ranks. Your engine choice gives you two choices to choose from. You could run an injected nitro combination, such as you will find in the Dave Harada tuned Will Smith driven car coming up on the Summit side. Or you can use the blown alcohol combination that you will see in numerous of the cars here this weekend as well. Jerry Powell, injected nitro car. There's the Medicine Man out of Atlanta, Indiana. Here comes Will Smith. And if you're looking at that car going, wow, why did they paint a car like that? Let me share with you a little bit of Top Fuel history. As Dave Harada was getting ready to put a new paint scheme on the car for 2019, he thought he'd pay homage to many of the Top Fuel cars of the past. And if you look closely, you can see many different panels painted in different styles. Shirley Muldowney is represented. The old great team of BB and Mulligan. Don Prudhomme's old Barney's car. The late Gary Ormsby represented. Don Garlitz is represented. Basically, each panel on the NGK spark plug entry, it represents a past Top Fuel car of note. Mike Dunn, Darrell Gwynn, the New York Yankees represented on there. Definitely worth a walk through the pit area to check out. Shirley Muldowney represented. But right now it's all about qualifying, and it's all about getting these machines to stay lit for 1,320 feet and to stay stuck. Oh! Wow! Will Smith carrying the front end out past the half-track mark. The front end did not come down till well past 660 feet, and he still goes 560, 232 miles an hour. Holy guacamole. Jerry Powell right alongside had probably the best view in the house, 581 at 247 miles an hour. And kids, if that didn't get your blood boiling, wow, I don't know what it's going to take. Will Smith came off the line, the front end hiked up about 60 feet out and just stayed there. It hovered a good foot and a half, 2 feet off the ground till it finally settled back down past the half-track mark. You talk about staying stuck to a racetrack and riding out a wheel stand. That puppy was well into 700, close to 800 feet down the racetrack before the front end finally came back down. Those of you sitting down there in the Mark Thomas grandstands, talk about a show. I hope you was paying attention, because if you weren't, you missed it. Will Smith, 560, Jerry Powell, 581. If that's the way the rest of this qualifying is going to go, hang on to your shorts, boys and girls. This is going to get interesting.
So you're fulfilling your dream of being able to drive, but you're wearing a whole bunch of hats in this sport.
Yeah.
So talk about how you do that and how you balance it out and the different directions you have to go.
Well, one thing I learned at an early age, from a lot of successful people, and mostly in motorsports, was surround yourself with good people. And I think I've done a pretty good job with that. I am the marketing director for the PDRA series. Love that job. Love the people I work for, Tommy and Judy Franklin. I mean, the owners, they're the absolute best. And they particularly, and that opportunity to work for them has really helped pave the way to get me here. And I know that, and they know how much I appreciate them and love my job there. And like I said, it allows me to do this. I went to the University of Alabama and graduated with my bachelor's in marketing, and I pursued a marketing path solely for drag racing, and wasn't sure the direction I would, particularly go after graduation. I mean, I knew where I wanted to go, but it's like, okay, how do I achieve this? So there were several options I had, and when I graduated, and like I said, I worked for some teams and companies in the past. They're very, very high profile teams, and the opportunity came about to go work for PDRA back in 2016, and it fit more along the lines of what I got my degree in. And I also thought with the relationships that I would build there, create and build, that it would help get me to this point, and it has. But I'm very fortunate and blessed to say my life is 100% drag racing, from my day-to-day job with PDRA, the opportunity to drive this race car and be with the Harada family. I mean, it's I've made a lot of sacrifices to be here, but I've also had a lot of great opportunities present themselves. I think everyone would agree, a lot of times you just got to be in the right place at the right time, and I feel like I've been there at those times, at certain points that have led me here. But yeah, I mean, I eat, sleep, and breathe drag racing, and I can literally say that, and I've had schools back in Alabama to have me come speak and talk about my career in racing, both as a driver and my marketing job, PDRA and such. And that's very rewarding when people call you and said, hey, I know your story. I want you to come share it with these kids, And that's been very special to me, because I love to tell my story, and a lot of people don't know my story, And it's we all have a brand, and it's the mullet, the hairstyle, and it's part of a brand. I know it's a mullet, and people's like, man, you need to cut that hair, but it's just, that's the brand we're going for now, Dave and I, and we're having fun with it. So
Yeah, I think you guys call yourselves the Mullet Mafia.
yep, Mullet Mafia.
But you've been working on the brand since the beginning. I remember the white sunglasses.
Yep, that's tell you a quick story about that. A lot of people say, where'd that come from, and back when I worked for Alan Abbey Racing on Mike Castellano's car, I used to wear my white Oakley glasses all the time, and people had nicknames for me and stuff. And this was actually in the early days of meeting Dave, and I went over to his pit. We were at Indy that year at the U.S. Nationals, and one night got done servicing the car and whatnot. So I'm going to go hang out, with Dave and his guys. So drove to the other side of the track, and Dave was off somewhere, I think, talking to someone, and his girlfriend Molly and her sister were there, which I didn't know them at the time. And so I walked up, asked him, is Dave around? And they said, no, but he'll be back in a few minutes or whatever. I said, okay, we'll just tell him, I stopped by or whatever. Well, they didn't know my name. So when I came back that later and Dave was there, apparently had been a joke started that I was the white sunglass dude, because they didn't know my name and I had my white sunglasses on my head. So from 2009 until now, Dave's always called me the white sunglass dude. So when I went and got licensed at Indy for the PDRA race, like I said, Dave and I have a very close relationship, and I'm proud to say that and proud to have that. I arrive at the pit area that morning, and the car's unloaded, and it's sitting on Pro Jacks, and there's big set of white sunglasses right there on the side of the car, And in the lenses, it said WSGD, and it says white sunglass dude, And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of choked me up a little bit because Dave did it as a surprise for me, but it was special, So we rocked that for a couple of years, and then the mullet thing come about, and tell you how that started. Dave's hair was kind of long, beginning of 18, and he's like, "Man, I need a new hairstyle." And I'm like, "Well, you've done everything." And I'm like, "Hey, why don't you do a mullet? That'd be cool. You could rock that." So he's like, "That's a good idea." So he did it, and he told me, he says, "Next year you better have one. You better start letting yours grow out." So I did. It took me a good year to get it coming out, but I've had so much fun with it, and I know a lot of people say it's tacky, but it brings a lot of great attention to our team, and goes back to us having our own brand, having fun with it, and letting our hair down,
Well,
both on and off the track.
literally letting your hair down. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So you were talking about sacrifice, and before we started this, you told me a little bit about what your lifestyle is like right now, what you're putting yourself through to chase this dream.
Well, it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm fortunate to be here in Indiana with Dave and his family and our team. Unfortunately, I don't, I during the year I moved from my hometown in Alabama to here. From this year, I came up here in January, and I'll be here in November. And that goes back to having the best job at PDRA because I can work from anywhere. So that's cool. So that's great for me in that regard. It stinks that I don't get to see my family as much, but I'm a single guy, and I just have an opportunity to go drag racing, and I'm just eating it up. But I'm fortunate that Dave and I have the relationship we do, and he allows me to live with him. So I sleep on his couch from January till November, and he was like, "Oh man, that's gotta suck," When people hear that, I'm like, well, I mean, I'm getting to hang out with my best friend all the time, and I drive for Harada Motorsports. I said, hey, I'm fine with that, And I look at all these guys in the past, John Force and Dick LaHaye, and all these legends of the sport and the sacrifices they made, or those guys were sleeping under their trailer or this or that, and I respect that. And I feel like, I mean, I'm not necessarily doing that, but, it takes sacrifices, and when you don't have a multi-million-dollar budget, you got to do what you can to make it happen, If I was rich and wealthy and, had my family had money or whatever, we'd be in a different position, But, I'm fortunate to have some great marketing partners behind me that help keep me here. And, it's just some of the sacrifices we make.
So the next question would be, is it worth it?
100%. It is. I wouldn't trade this gig for anything. It's taught me so much in every aspect of business and life and racing. I wouldn't trade the people I'm with. I wouldn't trade our crew, like nothing. Even my job with PDRA, I am so blessed to work in drag racing 24/7, and I'm proud to say I turned a once hobby into a career. And I think about, people in general that can't say that, I mean, it's 100% worth it. And it's made me a better driver, being at this level, being in this car. I honestly, I don't want to say I've surprised myself, but I feel like I have to a degree. and I don't say this to toot my own horn, but I know the first year I drove, we won one round all year. Every round, every race we ran that year, I left on everybody that I ran. And I never thought I would ever be able to say that, and that's, okay, we were on 7 races and won one round, so it's not like a whole lot of rounds, but to say that, and I felt like I started to build that reputation as a good lever in the class, and I think now a lot of people would say that, but me and Dave talked about it, and I told him after we ran the Chicago national event in 18, that was my first national event. I won first round on hole shot there, and we were, I think, number 9 qualifier. We had top speed of the meet, 280. A lot of cool things happened. I mean, I was like, wow, this is awesome. After that weekend, Monday night, we were having dinner, and I asked him, I says, so grade me on what you feel, how I did. What can I do better? And he chuckles, and he was like, well, it's kind of hard to critique you when you've left on everybody, like you're doing your part as a driver, Like, okay, I mean, I appreciate that, but, there was so much, I critiqued myself so much, and from every aspect of when we start the car to doing the burnout, to staging this or that, and I told him, I said, well, for whatever it's worth, I want you to know how comfortable I feel in that race car. And I've been driving, this year will be, I think, 22 years that I've been driving in competition. I said, I've never, this was my first year driving 2 years ago, I said, I've never felt as calm and comfortable in a race car than I do this car. And I said, I think it proves, like, my reaction times and how I was driving and executing, what he told me to do, this or that, pedaling the car. I feel like that was a product of how I feel, driving the car. And that added a lot of confidence in myself as a racer. Gave me a lot of confidence just as a person, a communicator, a business professional, marketing professional. So yeah, it's been totally worth it. I mean, I've learned so much off the track with this opportunity as much as on the track.
So what do you see on the horizon for you?
Well, with the successes we've had since I've been driving here, me personally, and having a great group behind me, and more marketing partnerships this year. Obviously we're expanding our race schedule this year, given once we see how, this virus, where that ends up standing at. So I'm sure we'll lose a couple of races there. But regardless, the intention was to expand the schedule this year. And we're just, last year was a really good building year for us. We changed our combination around last June, and I think we had a consistently fast car the rest of the year. And, the main thing for this year is pick up where we left off. We were number 1 qualifier to last race last year, career best 521 at 280. So we're like, okay, let's pick up where we left off and build on that. So, yeah, I mean, we want to be a top 3, top 5 car in the country. And honestly, I mean, on paper, last year at the end of the year, we were that car. We were qualifying top 5, and obviously we want to be higher than that. But I think we're on the right path to achieve that, and ultimately, turn on more win lights and win races. That's what we're all there to do, and I think that's a very realistic goal. And I would like to say by the end of the year that we should have a couple of Wallies, whether it's regionals or nationals. I think we're more than capable of that. This team's got as much knowledge and experience as any team out there. We've got great marketing partners that stand behind us, and as long as I can do my job as a driver, I think we'll have a good shot at it.
So I'm sure along the way, you've had people that have told you that you couldn't do it, don't chase this.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's in your position that's seeing those same roadblocks and obstacles?
follow your passion, whatever that is. If that's driving a race car, if it's playing a professional sport, if it's working in a factory, whatever it is as a career path, so important to identify your passion at an early age and set goals and figure out how you can get there, because that's exactly what I said. I grew up watching all these professional racers, and every year there's new drivers. There's new racers in every class. And I always told myself, when I was 8, 10 years old, I'm like, well, my biggest hurdle is the money, which is for everyone, you know. So I'm like, how do I get that? Because there's new drivers every year. So I'm like, what are they doing to get there? I'm like, if there's new people coming in, why can't I be that person? And I always believed that, and I've set some goals and tried to create a path that would lead me there, and I think I've done that. But I think it's having a never giving up attitude. Yeah, I was told, I had people laugh in my face when I told them I'm going to race professionally one day. You know, they thought it was I guess a joke per se, or like, you can't do it because you don't have the money, or you don't know people, or whatever. And I had some people in the past that tried to throw roadblocks in my way to prevent me from getting in a car, and I think that's a pretty rewarding thing for me now, is to be able to prove that I can drive this car, and I have this opportunity, and that I've brought some great marketing partners along financially to make it happen. And yeah, it's very discouraging when you have people tell you that along the way. But I can tell you, don't dwell on that discouragement. I'll use that as positive energy and flip it around. I mean, to me, it fueled the fire for me. And I think as of right now, I mean, I'm not 100% where I want to be. Ultimately, I'd love to be in a Top Fuel Dragster or Fuel Funny car one day. But I also, realistically, never thought I'd make it this far. And I'm so thankful for that,
So when will you know that you made it?
I already did. I will say, I told someone, because someone asked me that, when will you know you made it? I said, when I'm at my first national event and I'm first pair out, because I don't have any, I'm a new guy, and I qualify for a national event, that's when I made it. And I can honestly say Will Smith made it in his mind 2 years ago at the Route 66 Nationals, when I qualified in my first attempt at a national event.